Hello, Internet, and welcome to the first episode of a new series I am calling Manga of the Month. I mentioned this in my channel update video about 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I discuss all the manga I'm reading that came out in the past month and decide which of them was the best. And if you want to find out which one was the best, you have to wait till the end. Also, because I know not everyone reads every series I review, I will have timestamps in the description, not the comment section, in the description, that says where each section starts. That will be, posted. But yeah, so before we begin, I also mentioned in that video that, in this manga of the month for June, I would mention the 5 anime I'm going to review for the next season. And I have those right here. The first one, as I already said, is Boruto. Of course, I've been doing the manga since, 2 years ago now, and it's a staple. Doing the anime, starting with next week's episode. Next up is My Hero Academia, which I've actually not seen any of season 3. I've heard it's really fucking good, but because of that, I'm not seeing My Hero Academia, and our third series, Steins Gate Zero. So those might take a little extra while as I catch up on everything I missed from the spring quarter. But yeah, that'll be up. I'll miss no more than an episode or two from those two. The next two series are series that do not have that problem. The first one is Attack on Titan 3. It's Attack on Titan is continuing. You either love it, you hate it. I love it. It's Attack on Titan. And the fifth one is a series I don't know a whole lot about. Which at the moment has no official English title. But it is Satsuriku no Tenshi, which directly translates to Angels of Death. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it looks good, and it's what we're checking out. And that first episode comes up, I think, Friday, so that'll be around then, or maybe Saturday. I don't know. Who knows? It will be out, though. Anyway, now that is done, now that I've stumbled my way through 2.5 minutes of your time, let's get to the meat of the video, and that is Manga of the Month. So, for first up, we're going to be discussing Boruto Chapter 24. What was good, what was bad. So mainly, also what was interesting, which is since Boruto isn't very much in a question-raising place, a lot of this is more interesting than necessarily good or bad, and can go either way. So first off, Jigen's power, I'm curious what it all is. Like, we see him, regenerate the table and the food. I may have missed, I'm not sure if the destroyed table was still there and he cloned the table, or if he brought the table back in time. That leaves a whole lot of questions to his powers going forward. Speaking of questions, the Karma Seals, I have some questions about. Primarily because Boruto's and Kawaki's are definitely linked. Despite the fact that Boruto's got from killing Momoshiki, and unless there's a second Momoshiki running around, Kawaki could not have gotten his from killing Momoshiki. Maybe, because Momoshiki, Kinshiki, and Urashiki were all in a group, maybe the theory that Kawaki killed Urashiki is correct, and that's why they're all connected. Who's to say? We'll have to wait and see more from the anime on that, because Urashiki seems to be very anime-focused. Maybe he'll pop up in the manga later on. I'd be kind of curious how they do that, because it's not like Sumire, where all of their interactions were before the manga started. But yeah, I don't really know where that's going to go. Moving on, Kawaki's backstory is just a little overly dark. I don't really need him to be, what is it? Like, his dad is just so over the top in his assholery. He calls him, empty and just a punching bag over the course of, like, one page. It's just a little much. And I feel like I feel like his time with Kara is a much more intriguing look at abuse than his dad's, like, oh yeah. Like, his dad is almost Dursley-esque in his abuse, where, what we see with Garo, more on him in a minute, Garo's specific use of empty seems a lot more deliberate and, intended to rile up, which I feel is a lot more interesting than just oh, his dad's an asshole. But yeah, that's really my kind of thoughts on that. But Delta and Kosh and Koji's relationship, I feel, is a lot of fun. I like their kind of like bickeringness. They're like bickering villains who are on the same side, but are still kind of not quite at like shonen protagonist, shonen rival levels, but still are just kind of interesting. I really want to see more of Delta and Kosh and Koji as we go on. Also, a question: is Delta's eye? Does it mean anything? I know it's Naruto, and eyes always mean something, but I don't know. Maybe it's just an eye. I don't think we need to like with the Jogan and the Tenseigan, and of course the Rinnegan and Byakugan and Sharingan. I don't think we really need another eye jutsu, so I don't really want Delta to have a new one. But we'll see where that goes. Now on to Garo. Garo just doesn't really seem like that interesting of a villain. He seems like Ao. I hope that the outers from here on are more like Ao and not like Garo, because Ao had some like he got along with Boruto, and seeing him fight Boruto is honestly kind of tragic because it's one of those in any other circumstance you could have been friends kind of deal that always like kind of works when done well, and it was done well, so it was good. But Garo's just kind of like, yeah, I'm here, I'm an asshole, Kawaki broke my jaw, and that's their whole relationship. So honestly, I hope there's more to Garo than just that, but I'm not really holding out for it. So Kawaki's weird fucking parasite arm that he gets at the very end of the chapter, that's cool. I don't really know what's gonna come from it, but honestly, it's just a cool design, and I hope, I don't know, maybe all those powers are gonna be that weird parasite-style body horror. But I have my problems with the end of Parasite to begin with, and I hope that's not really a sign of the fate of the series. But in the end, it's a good chapter. But I feel like the main villains like Delta and Koji and Jigen are just a lot more interesting than Kawaki and Garo. And I hope it doesn't really. I hope Kawaki and Garo get more interesting as we go on. But at the moment, the more background villains are a lot more interesting than the ones we're facing at the moment. And that's kind of my thoughts on Boruto for the month. So, what's going on here? Okay, yeah. So let's go on to School Live. School Live, there's not a whole lot to talk about because it's like one 20-something page chapter. But let's talk about it. So we have, I love how confident Kurumi is when she, is dealing with the Randall Protection Agency. Like, she's, driven towards her goal, and she doesn't really, care what Randall thinks of her. I don't know, I think it's really cool to see. Though I do wish, the School Life Club knows that the Randall Protection Agency has a bowman. I'm assuming they know the School Life Club has a bowman. I wish they were just honest about it, because they don't really need to lie. Like, they know the other side is lying, so just come out and be honest. I don't know, that's a little nitpick. But I love just the page where Bowman reveals the RPA leader is lying about keeping them together. You can, feel the despair from the group. That was really cool to see. But yeah. So honestly, in my video for the chapter, I did complain that it didn't really seem like the School Life Club's plan made a whole lot of sense. But in retrospect, it really does. They're just getting out of there. Maybe they could try to fool them by having the entire School Life Club be in wheelchairs. But honestly, just leaving makes more sense. And I love Yuki just caring about Bowman so much. She does not want anything bad to happen to him. And that's just so funny to me. That was pretty great. And now, so in the end, I feel this is kind of the first time that there really isn't any idea of what's going to happen next. Normally, you've either been trapped at school or had a game plan. When they left Magariaka High, they went straight to St. Isidore, And then while they were saying Sidori, they were always worrying about the Mutiny Fight Club. And now, and then when they left Saying Sidori, they were headed towards Randall. And now, they have some answers, but they don't really know what's coming. And I'm really excited to see what happens there. It was all in all a good chapter. There wasn't a whole lot going on with it, but it was what we got was a lot of fun. So moving on to Blue Exorcist. Alright, so y'all saw in my 99.5 video how much I love Blue Exorcist, and I loved what we got this chapter. I just wish we got a little more, because like Rin, has a lot of great storylines going on right now, but having no one but Rin definitely hurt this chapter. It would have been a lot better with more of the rest of the cast. And so next month, which should be coming out in the next few days, I want to say, I really want to see more of the side characters. I don't want this to be a Black Butler situation where like we drop all of the other plot lines just to focus on the flashback, because that definitely hurt Black Butler in the past year. But yeah, that's really what I want to see going forward. But moving on to the chapter itself, so past Mephisto, there's something just kind of uncanny about 40 years ago Mephisto that I can't quite put my finger on, but Mephisto is still great, and dog form Mephisto is always a treat. And I love Yuri is so pure, but when she's talking about playing with the Rinka, it's just really pure, and I want to see more of it. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. So there is there's a scene where Yuri is in the junkyard playing with Satan. Mephisto has a comment about that being possibly Satan's first intelligent interaction. And that kind of leads a lot to why Satan would have kids with Yuri, would have her and Yukio with Yuri. And honestly, I really want to see that development. Hopefully not more than 2 or 3 chapters, because again, I don't want it to be Black Butler. But yeah, I really want to see more of that. Speaking of Yuri, I do feel like, the loss of Yuri's family, we didn't really spend any time with them, so I didn't really, I cared, Yuri's a sweet enough character that I didn't really want to see her hurt, but, I don't know, I feel like Yuri I didn't care enough about, the other people in Yuri's family to really care too much when they burned. I'm not, fully, oh, who cares, but, there's just, I don't know, bigger things in the series. Speaking of other things in the series, Fujimoto, who was a huge asshole 40 years ago. And I really want to see how he develops into, the friendly old man that we knew him as. And yeah, I really want to see more of young Fujimoto as we go on throughout the rest of the flashback. So then, of course, the point that everyone was making back when 100 dropped a month ago, Rinka and Yukio Toko, that clearly somehow relates to Rin and Yukio. I just don't really know how it relates to Rin and Yukio, but I really can't wait to find out as we move on through the next few chapters. Also, I love how cute Yuri and Fujimoto's relationship is. It's so wonderful. Yuri, I want to see more of them as the flashback goes on. And I just want to mention just the kind of tragedy of Yuri being so happy to see the asylum, not knowing, the horrors that are going on underneath it. And I really want to see a bit more of that in the coming months. So yeah, mainly I just really want to see where the flashback goes from here. But, I don't want it to pull a Butler, and, I don't want to be here next year still with the flashback and not having seen any of the other X-Wires since, May. That's really what I'm worried about. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Blue Exorcist for the month. Moving on to our next series is Silver Spoon. Yeah, so Silver Spoon. So this was chapters 126 and 127, starting with the great scene where Okawa goes over to Hachiken's apartment to help him out. while just trying to like separate Mikage from Hachiken, so that he can focus on his studies, which is so funny. Uh, the cooking garlic, the getting in the room where Aki can't hang out for some reason, that was kind of confusing, but I got the point. There was all just a lot of great fun. And as was at the Yizo exam, everyone reacting to Hachiken's dad is always funny. I love every time Hachiken's dad shows up, and like all the people who have not met him are super fucking terrified. It's always funny. As was when Aikawa showed up with as like the bundle of sticks that Hachiken was back in 124, also super funny. This was just a really funny pair of chapters, but this one is about 126. I feel like was the funnier one. 127 focused more on, sentimentality, which, as I'll get into when I reach that point, I really wish it would have went further in. But anyway, the Tokiwa's parents are the best. They're so happy for Tokiwa. They love Hachiken so much, and they love Hachiken's dad, who has the best fucking faces throughout 126. Whenever he's eating food and like his eyes go white and like just has like a creepy open mouth as he's like imagining the dinosaurs dying behind them. Hachiken's dad is a legend, and I love him. I love him much more now than I did at the beginning of the series, especially like obviously because he's become a nicer person as the series has gone on. Honestly, there is this. I love like seeing the culmination of 126, or not kind of culmination, but like the after effect of 126, in 127, as like Mrs. Tokiwa and Hachiken's dad are just like super chummy. It's super nice. It's like a weird. They're not really. I never really figured Mr. Hachiken getting along with any Tokiwa, and the fact that he just loves them all is so good. And yeah, there is also a great Hachiken's dad joke at the end of 126 when he shows up like covered in blood and everyone just automatically assumes the worst about him. That's really great. But yeah, back to 127. So I do wish we had gotten some kind of speech by the principal. Like at the graduation ceremony, we have the, congrats, he says to Hachiken as he hands him the diploma. But I really wish there was some kind of just speech there. To really, like the principal's been kind of shafted for a little while. I forget the last time we really had the principal as like a main character. And I really would have liked to have seen him like take his, role as the principal. And I want to see that more. Or I said I want to see that more. There is another chance for it, but the series has like maybe 4 or 5 chapters left, so I don't really see that happening. So Hachiken reminiscing on the past 3 years. Oh, I love this series so much, and I'm so sad that we're ending in the next, 6 years, because it's never coming back from hiatus. But really, this is such a good series, and I love it so much. And then, of course, freedom from slavery was so funny. Even if I think that maybe humor wasn't really the best choice to show their love for the school, though I do like that is like a normal thing for students of Izono, like just to be super happy to be finally done with this. And of course, it's the iconic line, I don't know why they're happy. They're just going from being slaves to livestock to corporate slaves, which was perfect. I forget what teacher said that. It wasn't really any of the main ones, but it was still super funny. So yeah. Then, of course, the funniest facial reaction of the chapter, of the month, in all honesty, was Yoshino's unemployed face. What an icon, Yoshino. What an icon. Also, I don't really recall. There's the scene where like Michiko and Yoshino bond over the anime that's popular in France. I don't really remember them ever having a friendship, unless I've forgotten that. But like that bonding scene is really cute, and I loved it. And then there is later on. There's the scene where Aki is all like, remember I said Hachiken was could follow up his promise or whatever. And Hachiken's dad's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, even if, and also, biggest development of the series maybe, he doesn't mind if Hachiken doesn't get into Yizo. Like, this was the man who was, grades, 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 and nothing but grades. And I was like, yeah, if you don't get in, I mean, come home. I'm gonna help you out with your business. If your proposal is good enough, I'm gonna help you with your business. Like, that's development right there. That is some fucking development. And oh, Silver Spoon is so good. Also, of course, the Tokiwa's like spreading random ass giant rumors around is still one of the series' best gags. And I love it every time it shows up. Just like Hachiken's dad is like hesitantly supportive of the idea of Hachiken marrying Aki. And then of course which led into the great Battle of the Dad scene as Aki and Hachiken's dad like glare down at each other. It's a great moment. And then of course Aki's mom saves the day. And it was great. This was just a really funny chapter with a great bit of poignant character development. But I feel like, I miss the days of the super, emotional shit with, like, the Komaba's farm arc. I feel like that was really the high point. Komaba's farm and Pork Bowl were really the high points of the series. And I do feel like there has been kind of a shift from the drama that, was such a high point in the past. But, like, it's still super funny. And it's still really a great series. I highly recommend to anyone who has not read it. Even if it is back on hiatus, god damn it, Arakawa. Finish the fucking series. You have maybe 3 chapters left. Just do it. Please just do it. That's really all I have for Silver Spoon. And now, moving on to Fire Brigade of Flame. We have 4 chapters, 129 to 132. So yeah, first off, Benimaru and Joker are still the best pair in the show. And honestly, I want them to be teamed up for another arc super soon. Which made it even more of a letdown when Burns just didn't fight them. Even if it led to a greater twist in 130, just like building up the Burns fight at the end of 128 and then just having him be like, yeah, I'm not here to fight you, just was kind of a letdown. So Joker and Burns having a shared history is kind of neat, even if I don't really feel like it really contributed all that much. Like, sure, it helps that, like, it explains why Burns would help out Joker, but I feel like I didn't really learn anything about them by knowing that they were, teammates once upon a time. I feel like that, I don't know, just felt like a fun thing to have, and not really anything too important. Also, young Joker is such an edgelord. His whole speech about, like, I want to know why the world is so shitty sounds like, like an angrier version of early Kaneki, which we will get into when we start talking about Ghoul, because I have a lot to say about that comments on how the world is. Ghoul fans, you know what I mean. So also, as I mentioned back in my 129 video, Joker and Burns' Adora Link is just unlike anything we've ever seen before. Like, in the past, Adora Links let the Adora Link people see this, like, hellscape, where everything was just fire. And Burns and Joker get not only, the iconic eye planets, ooh, I'm a pun master, not only just the eye planets, but there's also, like, this, steampunk-looking city in the ground, or on the ground. And honestly, it makes me really curious about what Adora is. There's a whole lot that I just don't know. Also, in 129, I mentioned that the scene where Burns gave Joker and Benimaru the diary didn't really make a lot of sense, because if he was actually for the church, why would he help them at all? And if he was actually on their side, why wouldn't he just tell them? But in 130, he did just tell them, so there goes all my complaining about that. Also, I don't normally talk about the cover page here, and I don't want to make that a recurring thing for this, where I start talking about cover pages. But the cover page of 130 is such a great joke about Shinra just not really being around anymore, even if he did come back in the next week. I'm moving my legs, it's a little bit tired. Alright, so where was I? So it's kind of weird that Raffles III isn't curious about there not being any Holy Scriptures. Because according to Burns, Raffles III does not know the truth about the church. About Raffles I being Jonah. So shouldn't he be kind of curious if they just don't have any holy scriptures? Like, I would be. If I was a leader of a church and then I found that there just were no scriptures, I'd be like, what the fuck is up with this? Even if, based on what Burns says later on, that destroying the religion would like, just completely wipe out society because it's so based on this faith, it's still kind of weird that he doesn't. I don't know. It was still great. So yeah, the Jonah twist is probably my favorite moment in the entire manga. It's definitely my favorite non-Inga moment because Inga's just the best. But like just some minor character from Asakusa founded the Church of the Holy Sun. Wow, I did not see that coming. Also, Infernal's having no lifespan is interesting. I don't quite know what to take of it, but it's certainly interesting. Also, Benimaru brings up doubt, as is actually brought up again in 131, but whether or not they can trust the diary. And like, it's Joker asks something, and then Joker asks something. Benimaru asks if they can trust the diary, and Burns answers Joker's question without ever discussing Benimaru's, which is interesting. I'm not quite sure what to take of it. If Burns is actually working for the Preacher all along, I don't really know, but I don't know. Also, Inca came back for the first time since, like, January. And Inca's just always great. And she somehow makes Haumea's hideous bag outfit look good. Like, God bless you, Inca. You're the best. Also, Benimaru was such a dork. He did not even think about how attacking the church could affect Hajime. He was just like, he didn't even imagine that, that could be what happened. Which I find really funny. Also, Hajime's work is super creepy. All the talk about dolls and shit. And Nataku especially looks super weird. And I'm not sure if that's a result of the bug that Rekka gave him, or if Rekka was using the bug on non-human dolls to give them life, maybe? I'm not entirely sure what to take of everything with Rekka. Mainly because it's been like 2 years since Rekka, and I need to reread that in all honesty. But yeah, so that's definitely going on. And I did a bit of wiki diving, and for whatever reason, I assumed the bug meant someone was a pillar. It does not. It just means someone's a flame human. So Nataku is not necessarily the sixth pillar. He still might be. We still have not seen the sixth pillar, and Nataku could become the sixth pillar as the series goes on, but we don't really know. What's next? Let's see. Oh, right. All of the grabbing Lisa's boob jokes suck. They're super bad. That just was not a gag that worked. Like, it's up there with Tamaki stripping for bad jokes. But Shinra's confidence in Lisa's utter inability to betray the Eighth, because the Eighth is just that amazing, is super cute, and I loved it. Yeah, that was a great thing. As is Conroe just, like, popping up at the Eighth, like he belongs there. And I'm glad that Conroe just told the Eighth everything about the fight with the church. They didn't have this thing where, the Eighth just doesn't know what happened, and we're like, we know things our heroes don't. It's great that we all just know everything. Speaking of great things, that PTSD moment from Lisa, holy shit. Like, that was such a good scene where Giovanni, like, pops up behind Lisa for a split second, and she, like, freaks out and just can't talk anymore. Oh, that was good. And I really want to see more of that from Lisa going forward. Not, like, too much where every single scene is just her freaking out about Giovanni, but definitely, like, I want her to fight Giovanni again before the series is over. I definitely want Lisa's arc to be one of, like, fear of Giovanni to eventually conquering and killing Giovanni. I want that to be how her arc goes on. Also, seeing the full extent that Hajime is, like, incorporated into society really ups the stakes of, the Eighth tackling Hajime. Like, that's world-shattering to bring down Hajime. They, like, provide 70% of jobs. That can do a lot. Also, we have not really seen Hibana playing an active role in anything since she was the villain way back in, like, chapter 20-something. So I really hope now that we're focusing on Hajime for this arc as a whole, I want her to play a bit more of an active role going forward. Sorry, I was adjusting the camera because I was starting to lean forward and my head was, like, way up here, so now it's further back and we're all good. Also, I want to play a more active role in the arc, given that like she is kind of a main character who has not really been active in a long time. Also, Leo is super creepy. Like he reminds me of what are they like kind of like the maybe the cockroaches in Terraform Mars, which I never saw, or at least in art for, or like the Oni in the Ao Oni novels. Um, he's just super creepy and super evil. And honestly, I hope he's not really the main villain of the arc, or if he is, I hope there's more to him than that, because he's just kind of one note. But speaking of the Hajime scene, I love that there is no doubt as to whether or not Victor will betray Hajime. Everyone's like, yeah, he's on the 8th side. Like I feel like a lesser manga makes this big deal over what side Victor was on, and Fire Brigade is just like, no, he's on our side. No one's denying it. We all know where Victor stands, and I really like that. Anyway, Shinra and Arthur's argument was so adorable. The bit where they're like cleaning the driveway, and Arthur is like, "Oh wait, you live with Hajime. You must be a spy." Oh yeah, well, fuck you. I don't remember how that argument goes. It's a great little scene. I super loved it. But it does kind of bring me to something I really should have talked about a long time ago. Is that we never really see, like, Shinra has talked about how his experience with Hajime was awful and how no one cared about him, and I feel like that should really affect him more than it does. Like, we never really see him think about how awful Hajime is. He just kind of accepts it as being there, but just given the awful ways they treated him, seems kind of weird. I definitely want to see, given that we are affecting Hajime, I want to see Shinra care a lot about Hajime. A lot about bringing them down, given everything that they did to him. Yeah, but that being said, I love his reaction to what Hajime is doing because he got away. I feel like his guilt is really well done there, and it makes sense that he just does, like, this, he feels this is his fault. And I want him to realize that it is not his fault, it's entirely Hajime's fault, and I feel like that's a good character arc for him in this arc. Also, I do love that, like, everyone just kind of knew that Victor was a spy, and they did not care. They're like, yeah, we know. It's no big deal. We know that you're not going to be on our side. Even if Maki, except Iris. Iris did not know because she is so pure. And Maki comforting Iris is great. But speaking of Victor, so Victor's commitment to the truth definitely, like, shows his allegiance to Joker in a far more interesting way than simply stating it every few chapters ever could. Like I have complained a lot about how, like, we haven't really seen any interaction between Joker and Victor since Victor joined the 8th. They just, like, have not been talking to each other. And I almost felt like I had, like, dreamed up all of their scenes together. But, like, Benimaru, like, Joker's whole deal during, like, for attacking the church was to bring the truth to light. It's why he started to fight Burns, because he felt there was no other way to bring the truth. And Victor having the same, like, he's not on Hajime's side, he's not on the 8th side, he's on the side of the truth, just feels like he's the exact same as Joker. In a way that just having him be like, oh yeah, I'm on Joker's side, just would not be very good. Also, Kurono's character design, I want to see a lot more of. He has the mysterious, like, blackened right arm. I do feel like his, like, Lord Death suit pin and belt buckle are a little cheesy. Just like, oh, look at how many Shinigami references we can pop into one person. But yeah, all in all, these were 4 great chapters, ending one of the show's best arcs so far, and setting up another, hopefully, equally good one. This was an amazing month for Fire Brigade. Holy hell, I love it so much. Please, if you have not seen Fire Brigade, please fucking read it. Get power through the Hibana arc. It gets way better from there. Please read Fire Brigade. But yeah, that's it for Fire Brigade this month. Moving on to Black Butler, chapter 141. Once again, the chapter is like 18 pages, if even. It's actually closer to like 16. If you get rid of like the cover page and the like manga stream scan later page. But I love how it feels like a really realistic Victorian nobleman thing. When Real CL when Sebastian says something to Real CL, and Real CL, like, it's super disdainful, how dare a servant talk to me, look. And then he goes bright and happy as soon as he talks to RCL again. And I think it's a super interesting thing to bring up about Victorian culture. I really like that. And I also really like that RCL is not just like, oh my god, my brother's back. It's time to ignore anything slightly creepy about this. He's not blinded at all, and he's like, oh shit, what's up? Also, as I'm pretty sure I mentioned back in my 141 video, it really seems like Real CL is not alive in the true sense of the word. There's that scene where, like, Undertaker is like, oh, he even talks and breathes like a real person. You couldn't tell the difference, which implies that there is a difference, and I think he is not... I don't think he is the soul, because there shouldn't really be the soul, because Sebastian ate it. But also, Real CL doesn't really seem to care that he's not real. He's not alive, I mean. He's just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna do what I can do while I'm alive. Also, the twist that Real CL has been nearby the whole time is super cool. And shows that Yana throughout the series, especially throughout the 2CT, theorizing. Let me move my leg again, because it's also uncomfortable. Alright. Where was I? So Yana, especially with anything involving 2CT, has shown a real love for close attention to detail. People were theorizing based on the way CL's hair parted back in, when was it, the Noah Circus arc? Like, this is an old theory, just based on super minor details like that. And having the reveal around the whole time feels like a culmination of that. But also, Grell has quite possibly the most meta line in the series, in the line that I think the original translation I read had, like, let's stop going down memory lane. Manga Stream had let's quit the reminiscing here. And that's probably the happiest I've ever been to see them. Grell is far from my favorite character, I've mentioned before. But honestly, I've never been so happy to see Grell in my life. Like, that was such a great line from them. And I loved it. And Manga Stream's translation is... when I read it originally on that one Tumblr post, I think it was, I was interested in who the Reapers were after. If they were after Undertaker or Real CL. Undertaker for being this, mad scientist, or Real CL for breaking the laws of life and death, I guess. And I was curious where they were going to go for. And Manga Stream is like, yeah, they're after Undertaker, no questions. They're only after Undertaker. The Reaper, as it says on the side, the Reapers are after Undertaker, ? Which is pretty obvious what they're going for. But yeah, I still want to see how that goes. I want to see Grell. I don't think you've seen Othello fight yet. And I want to see how Othello fights. Like, the best of the Reaper sites are always super interesting. Like, Ronald Knox is having a lawnmower. That's a great scene. That's a great thing. I really want to see what Othello does. Othello's just a weird character, I guess. I don't know what his deal is. I don't want to see more of him. But honestly, this chapter is too short, but I love what we got. So it's hard to hate on it when the content we have is so good. I just wish there were more, which is far from the worst problem to have. So yeah, moving on to Tokyo Ghoul Re. Chapters 175 through 178. I know I only technically covered 175. 178, my bad. But I'm going back and discussing the 3 chapters that I did not get to cover this month because I was not caught up. So Koma and Irimi's zombified state is horrifying. Like, I love those guys so much, and the thought of them being, zombified Quinkes is horrible. And I really wish better for them than what they got. They deserve better. In really all sense of the word this month. Because I have some more complaints about them later on. So also, I feel like there's that scene where Kaiko has this dramatic reveal that the Washu eat dead investigators. And I feel like it's supposed to come across as horrifying, but honestly, it feels like the best solution. Like, yeah. Yeah, what would you rather than be doing? Eating living investigators? I sure wouldn't. I feel like that's just the best solution. So honestly, I don't know, he seems like this is big, you're defending monsters, but that's kind of the obvious choice. So I feel like the So there's a scene in 175 where the Suzuki Squad fights Kaiko, and I feel like the fight's just kind of there. I'm not a big fan of it, like most of Ghoul's fights. I would go on the record saying Sumi Ishida is not really good at drawing fights. They're all just kind of like, I don't know, I just feel like they're either too incomprehensible or just too meh. I don't know. It's just kind of hard to describe why I'm not a big fan of them. But Mutsuki rushing in to save Suzuki Squad feels really nice. Like, I felt Mutsuki's redemption was a little bit rushed, but I'm happy to see it now that we've got it. I'm happy to see Mutsuki be a good guy. He's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Also, Yomo and Tsukiyama and Nishio, who will go down in history as the world's greatest bro TP. Really all I want out of the epilogue. Let me go on a bit of a tangent right now. I want two things out of the epilogue. Psycho, happy and thriving, and Nishio and Tsukiyama sipping coffee in their old age. Because those two are great together, and I love them. Not really as a ship, just as like a bro TP, though I would not mind them as an OTP. I just love them so much. And seeing them and Yomo saving the Qs is real great. As is Edo reviving middle finger held high. Like, that just feels like Edo's character wrapped up in a nutshell as fuck you everyone. And it's really great to see that. Speaking of people being alive, Naki, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but neither did his death in the first place, so who am I to judge? I don't know, Naki's death just felt kind of like, we want to kill off Naki, so Naki is dead. Goodbye, Naki. Instead of, like, actually meaning anything. So I was never really a big fan of killing him off in the first place, at least in the way they did it. But yeah, that's really... You know, I have mixed feelings about Naki being alive. I love Naki as a character, so I like him being alive, but, I don't know. So, Kaneki and Furuto's final conversation. I have a lot to say about this, because it was amazing. 176 was definitely the highlight of the month for Ghoul. And their final conversation, there's this bit where Furuta tells Kaneki, if you hadn't gone with Rize, you'd just be some human living your life. And it kind of makes me realize that if it weren't for like one or two choices, really all of the heroes and villains of the story would be some human or some ghoul out living their life. You know, if Kaneki hadn't gone on a date with Rize, he'd been some person living their life. They're all really minor people. You know, Yoshimura was some enforcer for V. You know, Furuta was the bastard child of a branch family. Rize was a breeding machine. Kaneki was some kid. You know, Toko was some kid. The real, like, these, you know, set up this world, right? And the main people that, like, they're designing to be the world are people like Arima, people like the Washus, all of whom are kind of minor characters. As much as Arima fans are going to hate me for that, they're not the main characters of the story. The main characters of the story are like the extras. And I think that's one of the things Tokyo Ghoul does really well, is having these minor characters be the protagonists of their own story, as we will see in 177 in just a little bit. Before we get there, I have to discuss what is quite possibly the greatest line in the entire series. And that is, the world isn't wrong, it just is. That is so... Even if I feel like Kaneki's worldview at the end is still a little too pessimistic for my tastes, that's such a culmination of everything Kaneki is. From, you know, the happy boy who didn't know anything about ghouls, to the horribly depressed ghoul, to everything he's been through, has been building up to this moment where he realizes there is enough good and evil in the world to kind of balance it out. The world isn't this evil place that, like, he and Amon believed it was back in the original series. It just is. And honestly, that full realization, I feel like his arc is fully complete, and so I don't really mind if he doesn't survive 178. Or if he's just, you know, a super minor character in any future part 3, Kaneki's story is done. I mean, as soon as he gets out of the dragon, it's done. Which we'll see if that happens on tomorrow. I have no idea. I wouldn't mind if he's just dead by part 3. Before we get out, I really don't know what to make of Furuta's dying words. Like, he has a bit where he's like, if I said I just want to have a normal life, would you believe me? or would you laugh at me? And he does the chin touch, which makes it seem like he's lying. Because that's, there's been a lot to connect Kaneki and Furuta, and that is what Hide, way back in part 1, mentioned was a sign of Kaneki lying. So him doing the chin touch makes it seem like he is also lying, but also he has that flashback with Rize that makes it seem like it's for real. So I don't really know. And my laptop's on red because I did not charge it before I started recording this video. So I'm going to lean down and get the charger real fast. Alright. Where was I? So yeah, I don't really know what to make of Furuta's line right there about wanting a normal life. Maybe he's telling the truth, maybe he isn't. And I don't think we're ever going to know. I think that's kind of the point, that we don't get to know everything. So yeah, because he's dead, and we can't talk to him anymore, and we can't find out what he really wanted. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but that's just how life goes, I guess. So I feel like the beginning of chapter 177's monologue, where he says, if you were to make a story based on my life, it would be a tragedy, would be a lot better if they included the first part instead of that part, because he goes on that bit, because at the beginning of it, this is way back in chapter 1 that it's from, right? And he says, I'm not the protagonist of a book or anything, and given that the rest of the monologue is all about how we're all the protagonists of our own book, which, as I mentioned, something Tokyo Ghoul is really, really good at, making the minor characters the protagonists of their own story, I feel like it would make a lot more sense to include that bit. But I also really feel like, so the rest of the monologue is the whole, either steal or be stolen from, forsake or be forsaken, I forget the rest of it, but it kind of feels like a callback to Yoshimura's, to live you have to steal, and stealing is evil, so to live is evil. But it's much more hopeful, because, Kaneki's speech has a way that, maybe everything will be bad, but there's still something worth living for. While Yoshimura's just yeah, everything fucking sucks. Honestly, 177, despite being just this long-ass inner monologue, was really good. 177 was such a good chapter. As well as Rize's final design is really cool. I really like seeing it, even if we only got to see it for, 2 panels. Because she shows up once alive, and then we see her again, and she's dead. Which is a huge letdown. They built up, sorry Rize had to kill you, there's a single white line, and then we never hear from Rize again. Which admittedly is kind of emblematic of Rize as a character throughout the entire series, but I digress. But also, I've just never, as I mentioned earlier, I've never really been the biggest fan of Ghoul's fights, and given that there were only 2 chapters up to that point, honestly, not including the fight might be for the best. Unless he was going to go full-on Arakawa and give us a 100-page final chapter, there's not really a whole lot you can do with 2 chapters for that fight. So yeah, her death is pretty anticlimactic. Speaking of anticlimactic, Kaiko! What was that? Kaiko, was built up as, the head of V, and then he's just, wiped out by Cory and Take. No, not Cory and Take. Who kills him? Is it the Qs? I feel like it's the Qs. So Cory and Take are fighting Koma and Irimi, I think. Which was also anticlimactic. I really wish we could have seen a bit more of that, given that they have that deep connection to Kaya and Irimi, and not Kaya and Irimi, Koma and Irimi. Sorry, I'm almost an hour into this video and I'm super tired. I really wish there was a bit more to talk about. A bit more of that fight between Koma and Irimi, just because I feel like there's a lot of inherent drama to that fight, and it's stuff like that, stuff rushed like that really makes me think that Ghoul was getting cancelled and not making way for a part 3, which makes me really nervous, because I mentioned back in my announcement video, I don't think there's really any way to really wrap this up properly, and I am happy it seems like they'll be at least wrapping up Kaneki's arc, which is all I really expect from the ending to Re, even if I wish there was more to it than just that. But yeah, that sense of it's just a little bit too fast kind of plagues the entire final fight with V. It feels like the whole thing happened off screen, or off page, I guess. It just was not exactly the best done. That being said, I love that panel after Kaneki is swallowed up by the dragon, where he is in white, silhouetted against the blackness of the decaying dragon. That was a really cool panel showing that he is kind of, his, savior complex of the world. How he actually did kind of fulfill his savior complex in a twisted sort of way. But I still have no idea who the line "I've always looked up to you" is supposed to be from. Like, it doesn't sound like something Toka would say, but we go straight to Toka after that, so I don't really know. It's just a big fucking question mark. Also, I'm still upset that Toka is sidelined. She is the main female character, and she is a fucking off to the sideline. I get that she's pregnant, but, like, I don't know, it just feels... I don't know. It just doesn't quite sit right with me. I don't quite know how I would fix it, but it just doesn't really work. That being said, Toka and Psycho are super cute together, and I love every scene they share. So if it were a longer series, Psycho's mom has been implied to be kind of an asshole, right? Like, forcing Psycho to join the Qs. I want Toka and Kaneki to adopt Psycho next chapter, if he lives. If not, Toka can adopt Psycho herself. That would be great. Given that, like, ghouls and humans are at a kind of peace at the moment, that would be great. All in all, the Ghoul chapters this month, the stuff focusing on Kaneki were really fucking good. Super amazing. The world isn't wrong, it just is. It's so good. Kaneki's, like, monologue battle through the dragon was amazing, even if the Rize bit was kind of off. But the fights with V just were kind of eh. I don't know, they didn't work, as I mentioned. Which leads me to, at long last, our last chapter for the video, Eden Zero, Chapter 1. While this may seem like it would be a really short section, this is an 80-page chapter, so sit down. We'll just reach an hour. I hope to not go too long over an hour. I underestimated how long this would take. We are 52 minutes in. So anyway, let's dive right on in so we can finish and I can go to bed. So in the prologue scene, I love... Mashima is really good at, like, depicting characters who just love each other. Like, not, like, familially. And you really get that from the first scene with Shiki, the Demon King, and Michael. The Demon King punking Michael about the comet. More on that later. It's just a really nice scene. Moving on to the main chapter itself, I'll really have to wait and see how Eden Zero uses her, but there's something really interesting about having a YouTuber be the protagonist. And I'm not quite sure where we're going to go with that, but it's an interesting thing. It does lead up to the really cute moment where Rebecca forgets to record the robot's intro speech and asks them to go back. I found that really funny. Excuse me, moving my leg again. Alright. Hard to stay comfortable sitting up for an hour. So yeah, her love of cats it's funny in this instance, but I can see it wearing out if it's not used correctly. I hope it stays like a sparse joke. I hope she doesn't fight like armies upon armies of cats that she can never focus on because they're just so cute. Maybe like one time she finds an enemy that's a cat and like that could work maybe, but not too many. Also, as I mentioned back up in the Fighter Brigade section, boob groping jokes are never funny. There might be a way to make them funny, but I cannot think of them, and I doubt they exist. Neither is the Shiki looking up Rebecca's skirt joke. That was pretty bad. But the trying to eat happy jokes are hilarious, and please give me more of them. I love them. Also, Shiki is super adorable with the robots. Like, he just loves them so unconditionally, and that, as I said before, is something Mashima does really well, making these likable characters who just love each other and who you want to spend more time with. That's really Mashima's strength, even when, his battles just aren't really, amazing. Like we saw in Alvarez, just seeing how much the characters love each other is a lot of fun. So as I said in my review video, there is something really refreshing about having a female protagonist be, the hungry shonen archetype. That's not something that's really seen ever. So I'm happy to have an always eating Rebecca. Also, the Machine King sure is foreboding in his first appearance. Like that's all. That's another one of Mashima's specialties, is that you know he's really good at setting things up, even if he's not always great at bringing them back to Earth, um, so to speak. But yeah, the Machine King is great. And the first time he shows up is like, holy shit, this guy is formidable. Also, it's weird. There's the scene where, like, Rebecca asks Shiki if he wants to leave the island, and like she's treating space as a plot twist. And I don't quite understand why she would be doing that, which is kind of a problem with the writing. It doesn't really make sense that she'd be referring to Granbell as an island and not a planet. Or like, why should be asking Shiki if he wants to leave the island? It makes sense when she first approaches Granbell, because like she's on the water. And I get why Mashima would want to treat it as a plot twist, but that didn't quite work in that instance. Alright. So moving on, we're my last page of notes, so I can finally go to bed. I'm kidding. I really love doing this. And honestly, this took a lot of work to set up, but I'm probably going to keep doing it as time goes on. But yeah. So so moving on to when Rebecca is captured by the robots, even though we do find out the robots are just acting and aren't really upset, their grievances seem very valid. You know, the stuff about, like, we're not just tools for humans, that seems like a general thing a robot would naturally be upset about. So yeah, so it lends a lot to their believability. Like, I really do believe, like, when I first read it, I believed that, like, oh yeah, they've been evil the whole time. Even if, like, the Michael seeing Shiki be betrayed by Michael was really heart-wrenching, I still did kind of believe them. Also, the Machine King looks super cool when he takes his robe off. Like, his battle form, oh, that was so badass. Also, the scene where Shiki is, like, getting pummeled by the robots, but he refuses to hurt them until he remembers the Demon King's words, I feel like it might get bashed as, like, Nakama power-ups, which it really is not. That is straight up not a Nakama power-up. But it really is a really effective way to show how he feels about everything. He doesn't want to hurt the robots, but even more than that, he wants to live up to the Demon King. And that scene really does show what that means. What that means, like, how Shiki feels about everything. Also, the Ether Gear is just fucking cool. It's a fucking cool power. Like, being able to manipulate gravity, being able to walk on walls, run on walls, avoid lightning bolts, super cool. I loved it. But on the topic of the Ether Gear, I am interested, like, Happy calls it a technology from the Dark Ages, and I'm really curious what that means for a spacefaring world. Because, like, when we think of the Dark Ages, we think of, like, medieval Europe, and, not really communicating with the outside world, which, historians will debate whether or not medieval Europe was actually that cut off from the outside world, but that's kind of our mindset. And a spacefaring universe, I should say, really can't be disconnected. So unless it's like millennia, like thousands of years old, it doesn't really make any sense. But I'm kind of curious, at least in our context of the Dark Ages. So I really want to know more about this world going forward. And this chapter did a great job making me really want to feel the world. Yeah, there's some really interesting world building going on. I want to see more of it. Another great moment. Rebecca having no time for Shiki's sacrificial bullshit is a mood. Like, the bit where, like, he's like, you go, and I'll stay and fight the robots. And Rebecca, like, grabs him by the hood and drags him off to her ship is stellar. I loved it. It was fucking great. So, anyway, they get on the ship, and they go off to space, and we see the whole, like, Sakura cosmos. And I'm really interested, like, most of the planets are all, like, planet-looking planets, and then there's the big tree at the center of the Sakura cosmos, which I'm assuming is, like, a Sakura tree, because it's the Sakura cosmos. But I'm kind of curious how that kind of, object exists in space, because that's not really how planets are formed. And I feel like there's definitely a lot of history with the Sakura cosmos that I'm hope Mashima gets to explore in. It kind of feels like it's similar to the Tenro tree, at least in shape. I don't quite see how it would have the same power as a Tenro tree, but I don't really know. And then of course we have the dragon, because Hiromashima would not be complete without a dragon. So I'm kind of curious just to know what it is. Like, is it a dragon-shaped ship? Is it a sentient robot? Is it a life form that just happens to look a lot like a mechanized dragon? I'm more leaning towards the first two than the third one, but I just don't know. There's a whole lot there that I feel like the show could really get into what dragons mean, what it means to be a dragon in space. I can't think of anything that has dragons in space before, so just dragons in space is something I really want to see more of. But speaking of dragons in space, the accuracy of the Demon King's joke about the comet being a dragon, as well as his comment in the Machine's flashback about Shiki eventually changing the universe, makes me think that there's a lot more to him than we know about. Like, there's not enough in the series for me to really speculate on what he is, but I don't know. I really want to find out more about the Demon King. There's a lot. He's definitely going to play a role in the future. Where he found Shiki, who he is he an actual Demon King that was possessing a machine? I don't know. I have no idea. I really want to know more about him, because there's definitely a whole lot more of the Demon King than we ever thought about, than we know so far. Speaking of the robots, their true motivation is heart-wrenching. And I was, super, on the verge of tears, on the line, with a pain this deep, who would want a heart? Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Poor Michael. Poor Michael. Also, just seeing all the deactivated robots throughout town. Oh, y'all. It was so good. This is such a good chapter. There is one thing I'm not a big fan of. Shiki's motivation is just to make 100 friends. Which, alright, but it seems kind of basic. Not exactly the kind of thing that can fuel a shonen manga series for a whole long time. But I definitely imagine that will change, Once we have villains and things, that'll change. So yeah, in the end, this is a really good pilot chapter. And I can't, there's still some problems, not really fan service so much as, let's say sexual assault. It was not good. It was not good. That part was not good. The rest of the chapter was really good. And I still can't wait to see what comes next. Maybe Mashima will stop his bad habits. I did say a lot during Alvarez and Fairy Tail that Mashima's strengths are in setup and his weakness is in the follow-through, especially with fight scenes. And this first fight was really promising, given that it's really good all the way through. But maybe that's just because it was a runaway fight and not a fight. But yeah. So moving on. Time for our final thing of the night, which is to crown the manga of the month. So for me, this month it was kind of a toss-up between Fire Brigade, Tokyo Ghoul, and Eden Zero. I gotta not give it to Eden Zero just because there was not that much, just the one chapter. And hopefully later on we're getting a lot of Eden Zero winning this. But honestly, even if the rest of Tokyo Ghoul was just total trash this month, I would have to give it the win just for The World Isn't Wrong, It Just Is. Everything else with Kaneki was just icing on the cake. Even if the fight with V was kind of not stellar, Kaneki and Furuta's final conversation as Furuta dies, and then Kaneki, slicing his way through to Rize, monologuing, was so good. But, what can I give it to but Tokyo Ghoul Re, especially as it moves into its final chapter? It was clearly the only winner. So yeah, it's gotta go to Tokyo Ghoul. Yeah. There might be more to say about that, but honestly, Tokyo Ghoul just deserves it this month. It was super good. Even if, 178 had some problems, and really anytime V showed up had some problems. V was just kind of a letdown all along. They were just kind of there. And I still can't wait for the final chapter next week. So, yeah. This is my longest video of all time at over an hour. I need a fucking glass of water. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the format at all. If you think I should like streamline it. This was a super long video, and I'm not really looking forward to editing it. But I might. I don't know. Yeah, but this was still a lot of fun to do, even if it was exhausting and talked way too much for the past hour. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, comments on what I should do differently, mention them in the comments section down below. If you think a different series should have won Manga of the Month, either another manga I'm reading, some manga else entirely. If it's some manga else entirely, just know I'm not reading it, so that's why it's not on here. Like, One Piece might be blowing shit out of the water this month, but I have no fucking clue. I did hear they entered a really big arc this month, or this past week, so, like, I'm sure that is super big right now, but, like, I'm not reading One Piece at the moment. Well, I just started reading One Piece. I'm, like, at the Usopp arc. But yeah, that's not coming anytime soon. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this super long video. If you stuck it out this long, congrats. You are braver than I would. I would not watch this whole thing all the way through. But I hope you enjoy the chapter. Or not the chapter. The video. Did drop me a like, subscribe, whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Bye.